A veteran publicist in the entertainment industry, Michael Caprio is our guest this week on Nevada Week in Person.
Support for Nevada Week in Person is provided by Senator William H. Hernnstedt.
Welcome to Nevada Week in Person. I'm Amber Renee Dixon. Born in the Bronx but raised in New Jersey, he began working on Broadway as a junior publicist when he was just a teenager. In Los Angeles is where he'd expand his clientele to include musicians, actors, and athletes like the Beach Boys, Doris Day, and Martina Navratilova. Currently based in Las Vegas, he represents the Chippendales, Human Nature, and Matt Franco, to name a few. Likely his most prestigious client, though, was four-time Grammy winner Olivia Newton John, whose foundation and estate he continues to represent. Michael Caprio, founder and owner of Caprio Media Design. Thank you for joining Nevada Week in Person.
Thanks for having me.
So I say born in the Bronx but raised in New Jersey. That makes a difference, right?
Yeah. My family's from the Bronx originally, and when I was about 2 years old, my parents said, let's move to Jersey. All my other relatives moved out to Long Island, so.
Okay, what kind of impact do you think Jersey had on you?
I think a lot, because where I lived in Jersey, it was only about 6 miles from New York City. So as a kid, my mother thought I was down at the football field playing, with my friends and hanging out, and I was taking the bus into Manhattan and second acting Broadway shows because I didn't have any money, so I'd wait till the intermission would happen, and I'd go in for Act 2, and I would go up to the balcony and watch Broadway shows. So.
About how old were you then?
Oh God. I think the first time I did that, I was 13 or 14.
And did someone show you how to do that?
Yeah,
what was your introduction? Who introduced you?
Well, actually, just friends of mine who we all wanted to go into the city. But it was actually, I had seen the Tony Awards. This was 1982, I believe. And Cats was the big musical at the time. And I had been a gymnast my whole life. So I'm watching the Tony Awards, and I saw one of the actors flipping, and I'm like, wait, they do that on Broadway? So I went, Cats was my first Broadway show, and from that point I said, okay, I need to do this. So every possibility that I had to go into the city, I would, oh Mom, I'm going out with my friends. Don't worry, we'll be at the football field hanging out. And we'd go into the city and go see half of a Broadway show because we didn't have the money to buy the ticket.
So you go from sneaking in to getting a job. How did that happen?
Well, I went to Rutgers in New Jersey, and I was a journalism major. And at Rutgers, you had to do an internship, and not like, oh, here's work for 3 hours this week. It was you had to work 4 days a week, and on your fifth day, the Friday, we would all go back to the classroom and talk about what we learned that week. They had partnerships with Johnson & Johnson and all these corporate companies. I'm like, I want to be in entertainment. So I found out who the PR firm was for all the big Broadway shows at the time, which was Phantom, Les Mis, Miss Saigon, Cats, and applied. A friend of mine, actually, who I'd met, was in the original cast of Phantom. He put in a good word for me, and then I became an intern. And then at the end of that internship, they offered me a job as an assistant. So at 19, I was working on Cats was kind of the show, ironically, that I was, updating the playbill and making sure the front of house, was the right names of the cast members, and so it really was kind of a full circle moment.
So then you decide to go to Europe, and according to your bio, you set your sights on Europe and continued your association with Andrew Lloyd Webber. So working on Cats and also Phantom of the Opera, but in Germany.
In Germany, yes.
So that association, what was it?
It was amazing. I went over to basically work at Phantom and just sort of be a part of the opening of this brand new company, and it was in German. And while I was over there, I didn't speak German. I didn't take German in high school. I took Spanish like mostly everybody else in my school, and luckily I learned to speak German. I mean, when you're in the environment and you're forced, you pick it up quicker. And after about, I guess I was there about a year. I ended up working at Cats. They hired me to do all the teaching backstage the acrobatics to the dancers who were not acrobatics. So like 3-4 times a week.
Quite a change.
Oh, it was crazy. And I thought, oh, I wanted, this is going to be my performer bug. It's bitten me. And then after watching all of this happen and doing the acro, 3-4 times a week, I'm like, okay, if this hurts at 19, 20, this is really going to hurt at 30, and then at 40, what am I going to do? So I decided, nope, I'm going to go back to New York and get back into the PR side of everything.
Another influential person you told me off camera about is Linda Dozeretz.
Linda Dozeretz.
This is when you moved to LA
Yep.
and you get into publicity in Hollywood.
Yeah, that was interesting.
What did you think of her initially, and who was she?
Well, she was a big publicist. She worked at Rogers and Cowan for many, many years, and then started her own agency. And a friend of mine worked for this Rosemary Clooney, who was one of the stars of White Christmas, and big star back in the 40s, 50s, and George Clooney is her nephew. So that's how everybody knows who the Clooneys are. And her assistant called and said, Linda, her publicist, needs a temp for a few days. Would you mind coming in? And I had just moved to LA because it snowed in April in New York City, which is why I left New York. I'm like, nope. I'm out. I'm going to California. I said, I don't want to work yet. I'm enjoying my life. Like, I want to go to the beach. Stupid 23-year-old, at the time. And I finally said yes. And I get there, and I'm working out of her house in Laurel Canyon, which is right in the heart of Hollywood. And I find out, oh, she also reps Doris Day and Henry Mancini and the Beach Boys and Martina Navratilova. And I was like, okay, this is going to be a fun 3 days. Well, she ended up not keeping the girl I was temping for and offered me the job. So
Because she was so impressed with you.
Well, I guess.
What do you think it was about you?
You know what? I've always been that person who doesn't like to just sit idly and wait for someone to tell me what to do. So even when I was an intern, I think it's why I got the job on Broadway. They would say, okay, here's what you need to do. And I would do it, and I'd go, okay, well, the next step will be to do this. So I'm just going to do it instead of waiting for them to ask me. And they'd come in, okay, well, we need you to, oh, you've already done it. So I was always just, let me just go at it. And I was temping. I didn't want to be bored just, typing memos, because this is back in the 90s. So they were like, oh, well, here's this or this. What do you want to do? And I just kind of went rogue.
What did you learn from Linda Dozeretz?
I learned how to be a great writer and how to be a great communicator, because she was incredible. It was before internet and everything else. It was a fax machine, and Doris Day was one of her clients, and I, of course, was a crazy Doris Day fan, and my job was to help write the Doris Day Animal League and Doris Day Pet Foundation newsletters.
Wow.
Back when they still mailed out newsletters. And I would write something up, we would fax it to Doris's office up in Carmel, and the first time Linda's assistant said, oh, Michael, it's Doris on line 2, I was like,
Oh.
I'm going to talk to Doris Day. And I picked up the phone and I had a conversation. Oh, Michael, change this, or and then she would fax back. I was like, did that just happen? So that was, and the sad part is I never met her face to face, which was hard. Yeah.
Well, and so that makes me think we have to fit in Olivia Newton John here. And so Linda, she stayed at home in her office. But the way that you met Olivia Newton John was you were out at a Grease anniversary party.
Yes.
She had no one with her.
Correct.
To help her with publicity, and that's where you stepped in.
Yeah, it was very lucky. So I had left Linda's to go work for a record company, and while I was at the record company, one of our clients was Dee Dee Khan, who played Frenchie in the movie Grease, who I just talked to her yesterday. She's still one of my clients, but she's family. And Dee Dee was going to take her brother to the big 20th anniversary of Grease at the Chinese Theater, red carpet, and I was like, oh my God, because I was a huge fan of Olivia's, I was a huge fan of the movie, and Dee Dee, her brother dropped out, and she just called me with that squeaky little voice, honey, what are you doing on Sunday? And I said, Dee Dee, don't screw around with me, you know what this would mean. She goes, meet me at the Four Seasons. So I met her at the Four Seasons where they had all the cast of Grease getting glammed up for the big premiere, and I met Olivia. I had met her a couple times before, but not in any capacity where she would remember me. But that day, it was Dee Dee, Olivia's daughter, and myself, and we pretty much spent the day together. It was like 9 hours. And at one point, she was being pulled by everybody, and because Travolta wasn't there, so everybody wanted Sandy. And I said to Dee Dee, can I go save her? And she goes, please do. So I grabbed her, I said, I'll bring her back. We walked out this back door of the Palladium in Hollywood, where the party was. She goes, what are we doing? There's garbage dumpster here, kitchen door here. I said, you look like you needed rescuing. She goes, thank And we chatted for like 20 minutes. We went back in. A few days later, there's a voicemail on my machine saying, I felt such a great connection with you. You took such good care of me. I would love to work with you. And that was 1998.
So fast forward, and there's a video of you and John Travolta and Olivia Newton John are behind you on the red carpet celebrating which anniversary
That was
of
the
Grease?
40th anniversary of Grease.
Wow.
Yeah, the 50th is coming up in 2028. That's what Dee Dee and I were talking about. We have all these plans, and we've got Travolta involved, so hopefully this is all going to work what we want it to be, but I can't say anything.
I think we only have one time for one more story, and that is she passed away in 2022, and that day you were getting surgery.
I was having spinal injections. I had spinal surgery years later, about a year later, but I was doing these epidural injections for the pain, and Olivia hated when I would do it. She'd say, oh, honey, don't do it. They're going to paralyze you. I'm like, no. And she passed that morning, and we knew that she was home with hospice, and it was a matter of time. When it happened, I literally was heading out to go to get my surgery, but I had to go back to my house to get my laptop because the statement that we had prepared, I had to deal with all of that. Literally, I am in the hospital with the cap on, posting, going back and forth with her husband and daughter of, what the post is going to say. And I finally go to post it, and I go, oh my God, I've got to text Travolta because he needs to know because TMZ is going to go to him first. So I texted John, and he goes, oh my God, Michael, can I call you? I had this weird feeling this morning. And I said, I sent him a selfie with the hospital stuff on, and he said, okay, I'll call him. He called my husband Randy. So I was like, all right. And I put the phone in the little baggie, put it underneath. They wheel me into the surgical room, and I don't know any of these nurses because it's just the surgical center. And I hear on the loudspeaker, you're the one that I want. You are the one I want. Ooh, ooh, ooh. And it was the first chance that I actually lost it because I'd never lost a client. I mean, she was my family. I mean, she married my husband and I on our 25th anniversary on the high roller. And, I had clients with me, I had friends with me, but she was my family. And to lose someone who's family and then have to put your work hat on was a tough thing to do. And, we're doing a documentary on her life for Netflix, and they interviewed me, and I thought it was going to be, who wants to talk to me? Talk to all the stars. 3.5 hours later, I was like, what time is it? And I was like, oh my God, we were sitting here for 3.5 hours. They're like, you knew her from from the professional side, from the personal side, and your stories have a completely different tone because you did do both sides. You were family and you were work. So I was like, oh, okay. And yeah, it's been hard, but keeping her mission going is probably going to be my legacy. And when I decide I'm going to retire, I'll probably keep her estate as my one passion project, just because the work that she used to do, well, she did, and her cancer center in Australia and her foundation here in the US does, is cancer touches all of us. So to be a part of something bigger than just a movie, where you're actually impacting, to see her interacting with patients and how she just uplifted people who are at the lowest of low is just something I'll never forget. Kindest woman ever.
Michael Caprio, thank you so much for joining Nevada Week in Person.
Thank you.